thanks. That's where we used the 2050 base for our air quality analysis, so we didn't do any shenanigans there. But for VMT and travel demand, wanted to test those 2050 plan and vision scenarios. So you see the really sharp decline in daily VMT. Next slide. Same holds true for hours of delay. And we still expect congestion, but we predict enormous relief in travel time delay due to the effects of CAVs and TSMO activities. Again, you see the traditional plan in the middle there in the orange, down the 2050 vision to the right, and 2050 plan, then 2050 vision, right-hand side. So dramatic decreases in daily VHT. All right, next slide, please. Hours of delay, really dramatic decreases when you incorporate fewer trips, more ride sharing, more automated sharing, and more CAVs in the mix. Next slide, please. All right, so what's the big picture? We think the future looks bright, but to get there effectively, we'll have to continue to rely heavily on traditional projects, Brent Spence, additional lanes, roundabouts, improved signals, enhanced transit, better bike and pedestrian facilities. Next slide, please. All right, well, before I wrap up, I want to show one more graph. This is the estimated regional VMT under the most optimistic estimates of the 2050 vision plan. And I bring in the additional years of 2030 and 2040. And I did this on purpose so you could see that it becomes evident that it's going to be a long time until we see significant impacts on travel. It may be almost 2040 until the real benefits of CAVs, connected and autonomous vehicles, become realized. And therefore, we must implement the traditional projects, which are the foundation of the plan. So that concludes my presentation. Next slide, please. Here's a link to our plan. If you'd like to check it out, 2050.oki.org. Send me any questions or call me. My contact information is on the next slide. Would change, please. There you have it. Bob Kaler. Email is rkaler@oki.org. Telephone number 513-619-7676. And this is the point in the presentation where I ask if you have any questions, or I turn to our board and they say, will you approve this plan? Which they did, thankfully. It was a challenge. Our chair, our president, was traveling at the time, and if you have someone traveling and they're staying in a hotel, don't let them be the chair of the meeting, because their Wi-Fi was totally messed up, and it was just you know what storm. So, so we got through it, and a year's worth of work paid off. And so I wanted to present that, not because I knew you would be interested in the OKI regional projects, but maybe to give you all a sense that maybe you can, if you want to, look out further and see what the impacts of some of those changes that we tried to do might look like in your region. So I'll take any questions if you have any. Thanks, Jacob.
And Bob, I see one question from John Moore. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
It says, Bob, how do you consider induced trips? Travelers that don't travel now, but would in a CAV situation, elderly, infirm, blind, youth populations?
Yeah, that's yeah, that was a source of discussion amongst staff, and we kind of rolled that all into the trip rate. We thought there's a lot of this, then that, and some of those that John mentioned. Yeah, we considered those. We also, I guess, were somewhat of a prophet and thinking that there would be reduced trips in the future through, like most of us are doing fairly often now, is work from home situation. And And so it was some up, some down, and the shared ride situation where those kinds of people could still travel, but they would probably be whisked away by on-demand call from an autonomous vehicle, and two or three people would be in a vehicle at the same time and traveling to either the same or nearby destinations. It would be so efficient that you would hardly not even want to have your own car anymore. Now, people with young families, I get it. You're going to have to, the convenience of having something there in your driveway, it's going to take a long time for that kind of thing to go away. And I'm not naive. I understand that too. People people like their vehicles, but we're halfway through a generation that is driving a little bit less, and maybe that continues. But either way, we think that it was worth testing. And most of us, if we are telecommuting even just 2 days a week, that's 40% reduction in work trips. So we'll have other trips we can make um, by other means, but yeah, it's all one ball of wax. So we can parse out a little bit more detail maybe at our next attempt at this, but it was start early, start easy, and start get ourselves out of the gate with this type of testing scenarios.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Kaler. Very informative. You probably noticed I started recording about maybe 3/4 of the way through, so sorry about that. I've got your PowerPoint though. If people want your PowerPoint, is that okay to share that?
Certainly.
Okay. Let's see, it's 9:56. I've got our next speaker up at 10, so let's take maybe a 10-minute break. Start back at 10:05. If everybody's okay with that, stand up and stretch your legs a little bit. It's kind of gets to be a long virtual meeting when it goes past an hour and a half or so. So we'll meet you back here at 10:05.
All right. Thank you.
not dead.
Hey, good morning again. It's 10:05. Hopefully everybody got a little bit of a break to stand up. And Bob, are you still on here? I'll ask him that question later time. I'll send that to you.
Yes, I am.
David Derman asked a question, said, is OKI given consideration to economic footprint expansion due to CAV? Sorry, I missed that one. Consideration to an economic footprint expansion due to CAV. Have you guys given any consideration to that before we start next one?
No, we kept the demographic file that we use in our model stable.
Okay.
That was developed independently. We didn't make changes. We didn't have a 2050 file that had any changes to households and populations in that versus some 2050 base plan. That was static.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that. Let's see. Our next speaker today is living in Bowling Green, Kentucky right now. He's a British-born race car driver. Became a U.S. citizen in '98. He's a racer, a journalist, and an educator. And he's a COVID survivor so far, is what he says. So without further ado, Mr. Andy Pilgrim, I'll hand it over to you. He's got a presentation and a few videos that we'll try to get working for you guys.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jacob. If I click on here, we should go, right? So yes. Click on that, and then we can go. All right. Okay, as Jacob said, it's nice to be here. We decided that it was a good idea if I came up here from Bowling Green, just to make sure that we had a better chance of showing some of the videos. And if we don't, then it'll just be the PowerPoint without the videos, but we're going to give it a shot for sure. So my interest in transportation, I think, started when I was like chasing cars as a 4-year-old down the street. Because I just had a love for anything with an engine and wheels. And as soon as I had a full-time job, I did start motorcycles. So I'll give you a little bit of a rundown on my background, how I got here and where I came from, and how I got into the traffic safety area, which was about 20 years ago. So I'll give you a very quick run of that. So this little motorcycle here became my racing motorcycle. It cost me $300, and I ended up finishing second in a British championship. Had a lot of fun with that, managed to survive. Several of my friends sadly didn't survive the racing career there. I moved on to bigger and better motorcycles, and after a couple of years, I ended up moving to the United States. My background out of school was computer programming. I enjoyed that and moved to the States, and as Jacob said, I did become a U.S. citizen in 1998, and I'm extremely grateful for the opportunities that I've been able to find in the United States, not only racing, but also for the IT side, and with my foundation, the Give Back Project, that I'll talk about in a little bit. Bought a second-hand race car, got into racing after a couple of years being in the United States. That little race car, that Renault there, was actually street legal, so I basically bought the car, drove it to the racetrack, and tried not to crash it, otherwise I was probably taking the bus home. Ended up having some good results in that car and started getting paid to drive race cars. I was still in the IT business. I actually started my own IT company in 1989 to give me more time off to see if I could actually have a racing career. And so this career ended up at Pikes Peaks, finished second at the Pikes Peak Hill Climb a couple of times, got some NASCAR rides, ended up running with the Corvette racing team and the Cadillac racing teams, lots of factory racing teams. I've been very fortunate to run some amazing race cars. That one's a Porsche GT1 that I ran in the late 90s. And believe it or not, all the way up to 2015, I was running these kind of GT cars and just having a great time. Still owned the IT company, so it was like a double career basis. More race cars there. Last year I was running this Audi race car, and this year I'm running this Ferrari race car. Again, at the ripe old age of what I am now, I'm still getting paid to drive race cars, which is amazing. So quickly going through that, some amazing memories from racing. I was lucky enough to drive with Dale Earnhardt in the 24 Hours of Daytona. That ended up being sadly 2 weeks before Dale passed away in the Daytona 500. Of course, I could probably spend an hour talking about that alone, but that picture, at some point, we can chat about that little picture there, which is a very special picture for me, which was at the end of the 24 hours. I've been very fortunate to win a lot of races. And when I started the IT company and I was doing well in racing, I thought there's a point here where when I was a young kid, my mom told me, you get one day a weekend to play soccer with your friends or cricket with your friends, equivalence baseball. And she said, one of those days on the weekend, we go help people that need some help, whether it was doing laundry for people that couldn't get out of the house anymore, whether it was taking food, warm food, hot food, or just helping clean up their houses. My mom was very charity minded. We didn't have much of anything, but she said there's always somebody that needs a helping hand. And by the mid-90s, I started getting into traffic safety. I had a local high school, and I just basically went in there and said, hey, is there anybody here who might want me to talk about traffic safety or safe driving on the streets to the students? And that's where it started. I sold my IT company in 2018, and I'm spending more and more time these days. And one of the reasons I'm in Bowling Green, Kentucky is purely because I moved my Traffic Safety Education Foundation there. But you can see the website here. I'll put it up there again at the end, but it is TSEF, stands for Traffic Safety Education Foundation. So the basis of the foundation was to create educational materials, make those materials available at no cost to either teachers, parents, or students, or corporate, and see what I could do. And I realized fairly early on there were problems. The driving test in the US is not the same as it is in Europe, where I grew up and took my test in England. I was just absolutely surprised is not the right word. I've taken the driving test in 3 states in the US, and it has been remarkable to me that the licenses are given away, in a sense, for such, it's just so easy to get a driving test. That realization was one of the main reasons why I wanted to get into this and just say, you know what, the students need more help. The driver ed teachers told me they need more materials that actually help these kids survive out there, and also parents certainly need help. And I'll go into that as we get going here. So students, teachers in schools, parents with children of all ages. I have materials for parents with newborns, and all of this applies to anyone who is in a safety officer position, who has meetings with employees. Any of my materials can be used in these meetings. And most of my time in the last 2 years with conferences has been talking to employees of corporations or groups, because the message I have applies to parents with children of all ages and to grandparents, which pretty much means any adult employee of any corporation or any government entity. They all need this information, and it's been so well received. I'm just one person, but I can be busy almost every week doing this. Of course, with the COVID situation in the last 6 months, or well, 4 months, I guess, it's been virtual. But it's great to see so much interest that I've had. The materials are out there. The materials are online, except the 2020 Vehicle Driver Aid Technology Today, which is one of the things I'm going to be going over later on to talk about. That's a brand new video that's already finished, but it won't be released officially until October. The state of Illinois asked me to come up with a video that dealt with driver aid technology today. And even though there were other videos already out there and they knew that, they asked me, they said, yeah, we're aware of the other videos, but we want you to do one if you're willing to do it. And I've just finished it, and that will be available to everybody in October. They have a big conference in October, which will be virtual probably, and I'll be speaking at it. It's after that conference they want this released. And because they asked me to do it, I said, okay, no problem. But you will see some of the chapters today from that video. But the other videos here are already available, all of them on the website. And many safety officers from the last 2 years are utilizing the videos, taking chapters, creating their own work plans, creating their own safety videos, if you like, and putting them out there for their employees, playing them in the canteens while people are having their lunch and things like that. So it's just great that these things are happening. I'm very, very excited. I'm happy that these things are being utilized that I'm making out there. And they are quite different. They are really quite different. I also have a mobility curriculum for grades 4 through 6. And one of the other people that I know in traffic safety has just created one for elementary schools. We spoke probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I explained to him that we need something for these younger children. And his organization, his foundation, has just produced an elementary school one, which is wonderful. We need all we can get out there. But to me, it's so important to hit the parents when their children are younger, so that the parents understand, because that's when the parents need to understand. When they've turned this child's safety seat around to face front, they need to understand that everything they do in that front seat, both front seats, but certainly the left front seat, is going to be looked at and emulated and fixed in their child way before they get to try to go for their license. And this is so important. And I think parents are much more engaged with their children when they're younger, and they're much more open to a safety message. If you talk to the parent of a 6-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 7-year-old and explain that your actions while you're driving the car are dangerous for a new driver, you may not think they're dangerous for you, but, well, we can argue that all day. But the bottom line is your 7-year-old or your 6-year-old is picking this up, and this information will be fixed. And when they're such sponges when they're younger, and you need to change your behaviors every time your child is in the car, especially when they're younger. And this message resonates tremendously, that I found with parents of younger children. So this is a message that can be sent out to all corporations. It's not difficult. You don't need long videos. And what I did, Williamson County in Nashville asked me they said, "We love your message. We love your PSAs. Are you thinking about doing any new ones? We like the message to parents." And I said, well, I've got some time. And late last year, I finished this PSA. It's only like 5 minutes, but it encapsulates a lot of the message I just talked about, where parents can understand a lot more about what's going on, why they need to potentially make changes to the way they drive. And it's called No More Excuses. And hopefully, if the videos work, I'll show that to you as well. So we'll roll along there. Almost 10 years ago, NHTSA, when I first went to NHTSA, a friend of mine in Washington managed to get me in there, and I got to see a few really good people. Dr. Jeff Michaels, in particular, he advised me, he said, "Andy, do whatever you're doing when you go into these schools. If you can possibly get evaluations, make sure you get evaluations." And I have the evaluations. Oops, something happened here. Do we need to kill this? Okay, thanks, man. And I have evaluations. I have several evaluations. This one is evaluations from grade 4 through 8. I also have grade 9 through 12. This is 5 states. We don't need to go over every part of this, but these things are available on my websites for more information. In fact, NHTSA have asked me last year for all this information that I have on these evaluations for these younger children, because it's not an area that they had really spent a lot of time in. So you're welcome to look at those as well. If it helps make your case, people put them in their PowerPoints that they create themselves from my materials. Traffic safety route, high schools, driver ed teachers, parents with children of all ages, plus corporate safety. And that's what I wanted to emphasize here a little bit. The safety officers, the safety videos to the employees. I've been spoken 3 times now for Machinists Union annual conference, which is all airlines, 750 people. Now, of course, that conference isn't going to happen this year, but I've done it 3 times actually. Construction corporations, thanks to Kentuckians for Better Transportation and the KYTC. I've spoken to lots and lots of engineers over the last couple of years, which is great. Chief Police, National Convention. Also, I've even spoken to FBI agents at Quantico and explained to them some of these things, some of the same things. FBI agents have children too, and it's a message that resonated when I was there with the agents, which was great. and I've spoken to a lot of corporate people in the journalistic world and the media world as well, because they also need this information for their employees, which has been very satisfying to be part of that. Because journalists aren't necessarily open, especially car journalists and media people aren't necessarily open. They believe that the smartphone was part of their DNA from a very early age, so it's quite hard to get them out of it. But once you talk about young children, especially when they're younger parents, it does make a difference. So I also asked Dr. Michaels one question, because I'm in an area where I'm talking specifically about behavior change. And I said, I can't create laws. I said, I'm just looking at behavior change. And he told me, he said, Andy, I know your message. He said, we've looked at your videos, we've seen them. He said, you're in the area of behavior change. There is no difference. And I said, well, can it make a difference? Because I said, what do you see? And he said, well, funnily enough, we have researched behavior change for people making behavior changes, the type of behavior changes you're talking about, where it becomes more situational awareness, more eye scanning, less phone, no phone, hopefully. He said 50% reduction in fatalities with behavior change alone is what we estimated. I was shocked. I thought maybe a little bit, but 50% is huge. So behavior change, real, sustained, he used the word sustained behavior change, can be a big difference. And he said your message, especially to younger parents and younger children, he believes is a good one. So again, I'm always looking, just because I have an idea, it doesn't necessarily make it a good one. And when you talk to people that really know this stuff up at NHTSA, and in particular people like Dr. Michaels and others, it's nice to hear that. So it helps me keep going, I think. Unique problems require different thought and solutions, but we really do need to have a clear understanding of the problem first. Now we're going to try a video clip here, which would be how the USA got here. It's not Wake Up, it's the other one. And hopefully the video with the, hang on a sec, there we go. Let's see if this works, hopefully.
The US is dropping further and further behind many other countries. How can this happen? How did this happen? Well, actually, there are many, many reasons. So let's fire them up. You need to understand, again, why this situation is not changing and does affect you now as you start the learning to drive process. The US has a driving test that is way too easy. You need to understand that passing it says very little about someone's ability to drive safely. The reason we have this situation in the US can be broken down into two main reasons: politics and economics. The politics mainly involves the voters wanting the convenience and freedom to have 14, 15 or 16-year-olds driving. If the current US driving test was made as difficult as it is in many other countries, then people would take much longer to pass. And people taking longer to pass the driving test brings us directly to economics. There are billions of dollars being made in various areas of commerce from the millions of young Americans passing the driving test at the current rates and ages. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that a much harder driving test would take people years longer to pass, just as it now does in other countries. Sadly, the current realities of political and economic pressures mean we will not get the much harder driving tests we need, despite the fact that it would save thousands of lives every year. You deserve to know this. Things are not getting better on our roads. They are getting more and more dangerous. As I mentioned earlier, I bounced the content of this video off many experts, teachers, and parents. One of the most impactful comments I received came from a Navy SEAL friend of mine. He told me, before any combat situation, I want all the information my command has, even though I might not like some of it. But with all the information available, I'll figure out a plan to survive. He went on to say, you and I both know it's like a war on our roads right now. Give these kids all your information. They're smart. They'll use it. I believe he's right.
I think you're muted there.
We can go back to this and I can explain.
Okay, there you go. You hear me now? Okay. Sorry about that.
We can just go back to this now. I'm like, I
Okay.
can talk about it.
Sorry, you were talking about something clipping the car there in the median.
Yeah,
Okay, what,
just go back to here now.
okay.
Yeah, we'll just go back to that. Thanks. So essentially what I was saying at the end of the video, you saw the truck come. Oh, we're good. Yes. Yep. No, it went back to the thing, I guess. Went back to the beginning. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thank you. All right, great. So at the end of the video, there's a point that I raised is this differentiation. The truck obviously came across the white line. It clipped the car went out of control, and it hit. And when I talk to students or parents, it very quickly becomes to light that the truck was dangerous. Obviously, it was a dangerous move. For whatever reason, whether the person was distracted driving the truck or whatever, they were dangerous. And it brings up a conversation I have with students all the time. There's dangerous, and then there's something else. So then I focus on the car driver, and I say to them, I said, that person was in a Jaguar much faster than the truck. They just sat there, and for 4 seconds, while the truck was coming across very slowly before it clipped the back of the car, they didn't move. They didn't accelerate. They had room to move to the right. And I say, what about the driver of that car? What do we think about that person? And then we talk about the fact that they essentially were vulnerable. They had left themselves vulnerable. And this explanation of dangerous and vulnerable resonates with many people, especially young people, which is hard to do sometimes, because they don't believe they're dangerous. I have had many times conversations with high school students, and they say, I get what you're saying, but I am not dangerous. Maybe I use my phone, but I'm really good at it. And when I use my phone, I'm doing my speed limit, I'm in my lane, I'm not going across the white line like that truck did. And I said, okay, fair enough. And they say, well, what do you mean fair enough? Are you going to tell me I'm wrong? I said, no, I'm listening to you. And I'll say, okay, you're really good. You stay in your lane, you do the speed limit, and you're good at operating your phone while you're driving. I hear you. Do you know any friends that aren't very good at that? And they go, well, yeah, lots of my friends, they're terrible, but I'm really good. I said, okay, you're really good. Let's say your friend Bob. Bob's not very good, right? No, he's all over the place. When he does stuff like that, he can't keep his car in his lane. I say, well, I'll tell you what. Bob's coming the opposite direction to you. And now Bob came into your lane. I said, I understand that you're doing really well, but are you going to see Bob coming? If he's in your lane and he's heading right for you, even though you're doing the speed limit and you're in your lane? And they just look at you like you're the parent that just caught them doing something wrong. And they get it. Then they get it. And they go, oh, I get it. Exactly. You weren't dangerous. You were in your lane. You were doing the speed limit, but you'd left yourself vulnerable. And that's the point. A lot of these crashes and collisions today involve two parties. One is dangerous, and the other one left themselves vulnerable. And that's something that resonates quite well with employees and things as well. So are we good to go? No, I guess we have to click. There we go. All right. Twisted logic approach, which I just basically talked to you about, is dangerous and vulnerable. And that's something that the Machinists Union safety officers, several of them, came to me at the second time I spoke and said, we love that dangerous, vulnerable. It's making an impression on the guys, because we're talking the Machinists Union guys are the ramp workers, the guys that do the baggage handling from the planes, and also the mechanics. And so they said it's making a difference. And of course, we never call them accidents. They're collisions and crashes. They don't happen by chance. And that's something else that I talk about with students as well. So the U.S. problem has become a tsunami. Over the last several years, the situation is not normal. The U.S. has got a crash rate that's increasing faster than anywhere else in the world over the last 5 years, and this is something that I've been highlighting. So the decreases from all-time highs, if we look at the late 70s and early 80s, the all-time highs in traffic fatalities. Germany is down 72%, the UK is down 82%, and the US is only down 28%. We all got safer cars. Since the early 1980s, and I'll put that 28% down to safer vehicles. But the bottom line is the other countries, all the other industrialized nations, made the driving test and the license much harder to get. And I believe, in my humble opinion, that is why their crash rates are down so much further than ours. We did not do that. Our driving test has actually been made easier. Where I lived in Florida, they had actually made they downgraded the driving test twice in the last 14 years because essentially more people passing the test more easily is an economic issue. That's what I heard from one of the state representatives. I'm not going to say another word. Germany, training. Anyone can do this. We could do this in Germany. I've seen this. I was racing in Germany 3 times in 2017, and I did 1,000+ miles in Germany. I saw this a couple of times. When there was a crash, the people automatically park like this and leave an open lane for the emergency vehicles to come through. And it's incredible. Essentially, once they understand what's going on, everybody stops and pulls off and does this. We could do this. This is just training. It's just an example of what a good, really solid driving test will do. But I'm not naive. I understand we're probably never going to get that in the US, at least not in my lifetime. And we probably won't need it in my lifetime because we'll have autonomous vehicles, which is a whole nother story and something I speak about at least half the time these days. But essentially, for the next 25 to 30 years, which I heard the last speaker saying, is we're still going to need infrastructure, and we're still going to have probably 50% of the cars not autonomous in 30 to 40 years. We need to teach people to drive, and it's something, that we just can't get away from. So compared with other countries, yes, the US is number one. Fastest increase in fatalities and injuries in the whole world in the last 5 years. Last year, they had numerous articles out, and this one was just happened to be Chicago Tribune. US traffic deaths up leads the world in increase. And the increases in deaths per mile driven, as probably some of you know, over the last month or so, the deaths per mile, last couple of months, since COVID, the deaths per mile driven have gone from 1.06 to 1.24. That is an enormous increase in deaths per mile driven. Even though there's less cars on the road, we're having a percentage more fatalities. I'm not sure why. I don't know. And I'm sure NHTSA and other people are scratching their heads about it. For as far as our US increase in the last 5 years, forgetting the last 4 months, smartphone ownership in the US reached full saturation at the end of 2014. A friend of mine at Verizon used that term. I didn't know what it was, and they said everybody who wanted a smartphone essentially had one by the end of 14. We, as in Verizon, along with everybody else, pushed to get everybody into a smartphone by the end of 14 because we knew basically all we're doing now is feeding on each other's scraps, as she put it. Drivers use smartphones while driving is, in my opinion, the number one reason why the US traffic death and injury increases have happened, because we're not teaching people how to drive very well, and then you add the smartphone. And there's one other major point. Half the new driving license holders in the US receive 0 structured driver education. 0. Nothing. And they pass the test. In fact, several states, as you probably know, during the COVID crisis, have actually said, don't worry about the driving licenses. Get the parents to sign off and their kid can drive the car, because we can't test people during COVID. I don't even know what to say about that, but to be honest, I really don't. I couldn't believe it when I read it. I thought maybe it's fake news, but apparently it's not fake news. I wish it was fake news. Parents' misconceptions, biggest influence is definitely the parents. So if you want to thoughtless advertising, we can go to the Subaru ad. Sorry, go to the Subaru ad. It's okay. This one's fine. This one's fine. Play it.
We've got cars now being sold with Wi-Fi connectivity. And unfortunately, some of the adverts that I'm seeing on television that say basically keep you connected on the road with your Wi-Fi, that's a really poor choice of words. In my opinion, there is never a need for someone driving to be Wi-Fi connected, and this is especially true for new drivers. And we have to talk about the insurance companies. And again, insurance companies do a good business. They're great companies. We need insurance companies. As a traffic safety expert, I need to talk about what I see on the TV in these adverts. They use the word accident. Traffic safety experts don't. And again, it's just that side of accident, like, I couldn't help it. We've seen things like they came from nowhere. They use the word blindsided in some of these ads. It should not be happening. If somebody came from nowhere, it meant the driver was not paying attention, because 99% of the time you can see where people are coming from. Again, there's one advert out there that talks about parallel parking. Somebody says it's only a matter of time until you rip some guy's bumper off. So you've got two choices: get our insurance or take the bus. How about practice? Nobody mentioned practice. If you can't parallel park, go practice. You don't have to get the insurance or take the bus. Another one I heard was a T-boned by a minivan. And then we've got accident forgiveness. So if you get T-boned by a minivan, you've got accident forgiveness. Do you know how many people don't survive the first accident? And let me tell you, you get T-boned by a minivan, unless you're in a tank, you're going to feel it. You should not be hearing the word accident in these ads. It sends the wrong message. They are collisions and crashes, and they are not happening by chance. They're not meant to be. Most of them are preventable. Thousands are dying and millions are being injured every year, and it's getting worse, not better.
There you go. Great. Thank you. This one.
A car that doesn't get distracted. Auto emergency braking with pedestrian detection.
Well, you're getting good now. It's coming up hopefully in a little second. There we go. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So essentially just showing that we bring up autonomous vehicles. There are no autonomous vehicles at the moment. There are some vehicles that profess to have self-driving functions, and some of the driver aid technology works well, and some of it works occasionally. The vehicle manufacturers are going to make this stuff much better over the coming years, but ads like the Subaru ad, and that's not picking on Subaru, there's plenty of them out there. People backing down a driveway, I think it's a Lexus ad where they back down the driveway and there's a pedestrian looking at a smartphone, walking across the back, and the person in the car is distracted by their children as they're driving down, backing down a driveway, and then the car stops them. That technology does not work all the time at all. There are so many warnings in your vehicle manuals. If any of you have a new car right now, half the vehicle manual, if you have driver aid technology in the vehicle, 50% of that manual will be warnings, basically telling you that there are numerous circumstances when the technology will not be able to work, and anyway, it might not work, and you shouldn't rely on it. Which is this where we are right now. We're kind of the guinea pigs for this driver aid technology, which is why I've been asked to make this video, so that people understand the downfalls of 100% relying on the new technology. Many people have new technology in their work vehicles, then they go home and their own vehicle may not have that technology, and it's causing problems. It's causing crashes, it's causing problems for people. When they're tired after work, they forget, they don't have blind spot warning. They don't have the blind spot warning in their own car. They have it in their company vehicle. They've got reliant upon the fact that they turn on the turn signal, and if the seat doesn't vibrate or they don't hear a beeping noise, then they just go. They've stopped looking in that side mirror. And then when they're in their own vehicle, they do the turn signal, they don't hear or feel anything, and they just make the move and they crash into somebody because they stopped using their mirrors and they're in the other vehicle that doesn't have it. We had that scenario happened in South Florida with a huge crash near the Pratt & Whitney factory that I heard about from the Broward County Sheriff's Office, because I worked with them. And they told me about that crash about 2.5 years ago. So it's happening. So this education needs to be out there. And again, the new video, I think, will be utilized heavily by safety officers and anyone that wants to get this information out to their people, when they have company vehicles. So yes, we talked about the information, predatory marketing, possibly thoughtless advertising. Yes, certainly. We just saw that video, which is good. So awareness driving techniques for today is another video. Just checking the time there. Awareness driving techniques for today is another video where I look at various driving situations and look at the potential for distraction and the areas that you need to look. It really is an enhanced look at situational awareness, eye scanning techniques, and helping people understand that they need to be well aware of what's going all around them at all times to help them negotiate the numerous distracted drivers out there and potential situations. So if we wanted to do the red light runners, and we're going to show another video here. Red light runners.
Red light runners are killing thousands and injuring hundreds of thousands every year on America's roads. We need to spend a little bit of time talking about this. In this scenario, you can see that there's 3 lanes and they have a green light. The red truck in the left lane has already started to move forward, but there's a problem. As you can see from the arrow, it very much looks like the white car has actually run the red light. The driver of the red car is in perfect position to see the white car and should understand, if they're paying full attention, the white car ran the red light. Your next move as that driver would be to look further left to make sure nobody else was potentially running the red light. Obviously, the driver of the red car did not look left, did not see the Jeep coming, and got hit. 2 sides to this. 1, the Jeep should not have run the red light. I'm pretty sure the white car also ran the red light, but that was a clue that was missed by the driver of the red vehicle, unfortunately. The other cause of the crash was the red car. If they had seen that the Jeep was running the red light very, very late, all they needed to do was hit the brakes, let them go by, and then there would have been no crash. So, unfortunately, even though it's not fair, the driver of the red car is partially to blame for this crash, mostly the Jeep, but also some blame goes to the driver of the red car. Most of the time, you can see the red light runners coming, and you can avoid them. It's not fair. We shouldn't have to avoid these red light runners, but we do. That's the reality.
Okay.
Let me meet you.
Yep.
See if we can get the PowerPoint back up here.
Almost there. There we go. There you go. Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for bearing with us on that. So in Awareness Driving Techniques for Today, there's 26 or 27 chapters, I've forgotten now exactly how many, of different driving situations, whether it's freeway exits, freeway entrances, intersections like that one, all kinds of things, whereby I'm basically commentating in real time the situation, and we stop and start the video and tell people and explain to people, this is where your eyes should be looking. This is what you need to look for. And again, it emphasizes the fact that if you are even 10 or 20% distracted on something, you're not going to be aware of everything going on around you, and that is going to be a problem. So again, it's something that is being used, and some of those chapters make more sense to other safety officers than others. Some are very popular, others don't get used so much, but the point is the information's there for anyone that wants to use it or just view it. So we've seen red light runners, that's great. Usually these videos are embedded in the PowerPoint, just so you guys understand. It's just not possible to do that, and Jacob figured that out, and that's why I'm sitting here with Jacob, because we thought this might be a better way to go. One of the things that really makes an impact is the understanding that corporate liability, and when you talk to a group of people, they say, well, my company's got corporate liability insurance, so, I think I'm good. Well, it's not good because the distracted driving crashes that have been basically litigated at this point, they are now in the $20 to $30 million range when people had non-fatal distracted driving crashes. In other words, it was proven that they were on their phone, talking on their phone, or manipulating their phone at impact or around impact. And these settlements are humongous, and they're getting bigger. And that's something that could put companies out of business. They don't need that. But that's the corporate side. But what really makes an impact in these group meetings is the family liability angle. A friend of mine was a general attorney, and he's become a friend. He wasn't a friend at this time. His daughter was killed by a distracted driver. And he has made it his business and changed his whole law practice to go after distracted drivers. And essentially, he speaks as well. I've spoken with him, a scary guy. He looks like a linebacker, and he just gets in front of these groups of students or groups of parents and students and scares them to death. He basically says, I'm coming after your house, I'm coming after your cars, I'm coming after your 401ks, I'm coming after your college fund, because you, as a parent, put the keys in the hands of your child. You signed off on the GDL logbook when you didn't do 1 hour with the kid. You basically put those keys in their hand, and my daughter or my son or my client's son or daughter is now unfortunately deceased due to their negligence, your negligence. It's a horrible situation, but the point is it gets the parents' attention, and they start thinking, you know what, I need to probably pay a little bit more attention to this for my family. It just, it's interesting to hear him speak and then see the questions afterwards. So the family liability side of distracted driving issues is real. So I always want to throw it in there to let people understand that. And it's something that it really makes an impact on parents. And it should. It should. Driving is a serious business, as we all know, as most of you well know, because you're in the transportation cabinet or transportation and construction areas. So it's not all about the insurance companies. Yeah, it's not all about the insurance companies. Personal responsibility is a very big part of this. Attorneys are ready. Yeah, that's true. Attorneys are definitely ready. So the parent problem, grandparents are very nervous. Why I put that there? A lot of my videos are being requested by grandparents, and they are extremely nervous about the fact that their children are driving the grandchildren around while using the smartphones, and they tend to use me as the bad guy and try to show their own children, please don't be showing my grandkids this kind of driving behavior. So it's interesting. All right, so we have a new one. No more excuses. Can we put that up there? Now this is the new PSA. So
My name is Andy Pilgrim. I'm probably best known for being a professional race car driver. When I'm not racing or running my business, I work in the traffic safety education field through my foundation. The foundation is known for producing cutting-edge educational materials. This video is designed to help parents with children of all ages, newborn to 18 and older. I think we can all agree on this. Driving is probably one of the most dangerous things your child is ever going to do on a daily basis. Unfortunately, we've developed a distracted driving culture, and this has to change. I've spoken to thousands of students over the last several years all over the US about who was the biggest influence on their driving. The majority of them tell me it was their parents. From the moment a parent turns their child's safety seat around to face front, that child is starting to learn driving habits and behaviors from watching the parent drive. Maybe you doubt me. Check this out.
Sometimes Mom, she tries to lean back with her knee on the wheel while texting like that.
And also talks, and I don't like when he does that, so I keep on telling them both hands on the wheel.
It's not enough to tell them. With driving, you have to show them the right way.
Like about 99% of parents in the US, you're probably not thinking about driver education until your son or daughter gets a permit. That's about 13 years too late. This comes as a surprise to many people, but 50% of new license holders in the United States don't receive any structured driver education. The driver ed teacher never gets a chance. Obtaining a driving license in the United States is ridiculously easy. Passing the test says nothing about someone's ability to actually drive. I hear from many students. They tell me their parents did not do the required state-mandated supervised driving time, but still signed off on their logbook. Here's a challenge for parents. Try doing twice the mandated hours. Your child will only be a safer driver. So parents, please understand, whenever you drive with children in the vehicle, you are the driver education teacher.
I just never thought my kid was paying that much attention to my driving.
They've learned everything else from me. Why would driving be any different?
There are many driving distractions, probably from the first time they ever put a radio knob in a car to today. But nothing currently exists with the capability to distract a driver like smartphones and infotainment systems. Despite all the hands-free phone laws currently being passed, hands-free phone use while driving is not safe. Do not be fooled. Any phone call while driving, hands-free or otherwise, is a serious driving distraction, especially for new drivers. While drivers are on hands-free phone calls, many are now simultaneously choosing to use their phones for other functions, such as emailing, social media, texting, and much more, all while on the hands-free phone call. This is a combined driving distraction problem. You can also add eating, drinking, and much more while on a hands-free call to this combined distracted driving issue. Since the end of 2014, basically anyone who wanted a smartphone now had one. From that time, traffic deaths and injuries are massively up. In fact, the US now has the fastest increase in deaths and injuries in the whole world. Parents, this is not a normal situation. Many parents believe their teen will never stop looking at their smartphone. However, there are places where teens don't use their smartphones. Parents, never show your children phone use while driving.
If something had happened to my kid because they had been driving with a distraction that I know in my heart they had learned from me, I would never forgive myself.
All adults know the potential cost of choosing to drive distracted. At this point, the dangers of driving distracted with children in your vehicle, no matter what age, should be obvious. No more excuses. My hope? This video is the catalyst to change America's distracted driving culture for the better. We need to do this now for the sake of all our children. Okay, now we can, yeah. So we can show a couple more videos if you want.
Are you done with the PowerPoint?
No, not quite, almost, but I'll just basically, then I'll talk about the new one. Yeah, all right. Yeah, okay, yeah. All right, so the PowerPoint is complete, but I want to also show you a couple of chapters now from the new one. We'll put the introduction. It'll be good if you've got the introduction. Can we get a copy of this? Yes. Yes, it's on YouTube.
So we had a question. Can you get the copy of this? Is it on YouTube?
Yes, it is.
Andy says yes. Jason Swallow says it's available. If Andy doesn't send, I can probably provide it for you as well.
And it's at the website. It's on the website. You can download it. Everything's there for free.
And it's on this website. Andy said it's all on there available for free.
And downloadable.
Okay, you want to watch one more video?
Yeah, we'll put the new one. So the autonomous driving, essentially the driver aid technology for today video, the introduction. We need introduction. There we go. Yeah, this is the introduction, which will give you an idea, and we've just got a little more time, so that's good. Welcome to Vehicle Driver Aid Technology Today. I'm Andy Pilgrim. There has been a huge growth in driver aid vehicle technology over the last 30 years, with literally explosive growth over the last decade. This video is designed for driver education teachers to use in the classroom to help students and new drivers be safer as they drive. The video can also be used by parents to help them better understand driver aid technology and also help their children become safer drivers. The video contains 22 chapters. Each one relates to a different area of driver aid technology. Driver aid technology is most effective when aiding drivers who are paying full attention to their driving, but may need a little help once in a while. The video chapters contain footage from real-world driving situations, with other driving examples being shown at a large open driving facility when required for safety reasons. You will also hear about the numerous manufacturer warnings that go along with driver aid vehicle technology, plus additional thoughts and observations. Here's an important point. You, as an attentive driver, will always be the most important and effective safety aid in your vehicle. It is always the driver who is ultimately responsible for safe vehicle operation. I hope you find the video useful.
You good? Okay. Let's look at the list again.
Okay, we're gonna watch one more video here if we get the time.
Yeah, I think we've got a couple bits. And then let's look at adaptive cruise control, for instance.
Okay.
Adaptive cruise control allows a driver to set both their vehicle's cruising speed and following gap to the vehicle in front. The following gap usually refers to a timed following gap between your vehicle and the vehicle ahead, as detected by your adaptive cruise control system. You can set the distance to 1, 2, 3 seconds, etc. I would recommend setting the following distance to the maximum available. If the system detects no vehicle in front of you, then it acts like a normal cruise control and maintains the speed you've set. If a slower vehicle comes into your path, the system will moderately apply braking or lift off the gas to maintain your chosen following gap. You can disengage or turn off the system at any time by applying the brakes. If adaptive cruise control senses the traction control or stability control activating due to a slippery road condition, for instance, then it may disengage itself. The idea of the adaptive cruise control system is to automatically adapt to traffic conditions to keep a consistent following gap between your vehicle and the vehicle in front. Here are some warnings to be aware of with regard to adaptive cruise control. Please read your vehicle manual for a complete list, because the systems in each vehicle have different capabilities and effectiveness. The adaptive cruise control may not slow your vehicle down in time to avoid a crash if the vehicle in front of you suddenly stops or a slower vehicle aggressively cuts in front of your vehicle. At all times, you as the driver are 100% responsible for the control of your vehicle. This means continuously paying full attention to what's going on all around you. Always be ready to react to changing traffic conditions. Two of the most useful skills drivers use to help them pay full attention to driving are eye scanning and situational awareness. If you're driving while distracted in any way, you cannot be fully aware of your surroundings. The system may not detect or brake for children, pedestrians, animals, or other objects. Also, it may not work effectively in rain, snow, fog, or if dirt, bugs, or anything else is on the system's camera, as this effectively blinds it from seeing ahead. The system may not see irregular objects in front of your vehicle, such as long metal bars or wood hanging off the back of a truck, for instance. It is not recommended for use while towing a trailer. If you as the driver choose to use the adaptive cruise control system, you should not relax your concentration on driving. At all times, you need to be aware of everything going on around your vehicle, paying special attention to the traffic situation in front of your vehicle. It's not the adaptive cruise control system. It is you, the driver, who is always responsible for the full control of your vehicle.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, that was a look at one of his new chapters He's got several of these videos. It's about 11 o'clock now, so that's all that we have time for today. But again, let's see if I can share his website here. And before we wrap it up, Andy, to help you, I know you're a professional race car driver, so you get paid to do that. And this your foundation, how do we help out with that? If people want to volunteer or donate or learn more about it, is it all at your website?
Yeah, if they go to the foundation website, they can see all kinds of things like that. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your time. That's amazing, enlightening information, and it's nice.
You are welcome.
I've seen a few chats here about your passion. Your passion comes across in what you do.
Thank you.
And we appreciate it. I've got a few chats here saying that they couldn't hear some of the videos. Just email me at jacob.huber@ky.gov. I put my address in the chat box.
And they're all there. Yeah.
And I'll put up Andy's information here one more time before he has another appointment in Bowling Green he's got to go to. But thanks for driving up here, and
you're welcome.
I think that helped us get the videos out there to smart to present to this audience. There's still 96 people planning in the planning profession. I think that's smart to help get the message out. So let me share his contact info one more time.
Thank you for inviting me too, man. Thank you for inviting me. It's been great. It's been great. And good job on the technology.
Yes, yeah.
There we go.
Okay, so there's Andy's contact info on his website, and
that is my email.
I told him a lot of the metropolitan planning organizations, area development districts, there's meetings that have some of the first responders, they have some of the schools, and there's a lot of potential outreach opportunities that a lot of times, like presentations like this, we're looking for speakers that are interested and engaged, and sometimes it's just a matter of finding people that are willing to put the information out there and help out, keep the roads safe, and just educate the public about technology changes and that kind of thing. So it's cool to hear a race car driver come in here that has that experience and then relate it to what we're doing every day.
Yeah.
So thanks again, Andy, and safe travels.
Thank you.
On the
Thanks
way
very
back.
much. Thanks, man. Good luck with the rest of the conference.
Yeah, thank
Bye,
you.
everybody. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. It is 11:02. I guess everybody can still hear me good. Let's see. Our next presenting group, we've got one more presentation here for another hour. It's a virtual meeting, so you're free to stand up and walk around. Just keep your meeting going. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 speakers that are kind of teaming. They're going to intro each other, and they're out of Indiana. The first speaker is Mr. Dan Avery, and he is the executive director of the Northeastern Indiana Regional Coordinating Council, which I asked him, I said, what is that in relation to MPO or the area development districts? He said it's kind of like a combo, like our MPOs with the ads in the same office. And so that's kind of what's going on with this gentleman's organization. And so they've got some highlights, kind of talking about incident management. And so not to further delay, it's 11:03. Mr. Dan Avery, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Jacob. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. It's your floor.
Very good. Thank you. And thank you for inviting us today. Traffic incident management is a component of an overall traffic management process. And the traffic incident management, or TIM training process we are presenting this morning, is a multidisciplinary approach for first responders that promotes a shared understanding of the requirements for safe, quick clearance at traffic incidents, primarily crashes, provides for prompt, reliable, and open communication, and most importantly, provides a high level of safety to the first responders and other roadway users. About 10 years ago, I was fortunate enough to participate in a federal highway workshop that served as a beta training for the first traffic incident management course. The workshop was developed through the second Strategic Highway Research Program, or SHARP-2. As I sat through the workshop, I was intrigued at the level of interest and enthusiasm expressed by the first responders. That included law enforcement, firefighters, tow operators, EMTs, air transport, DOTs, environmental cleanup, and other disciplines. They really appreciated the opportunity to discuss safety and traffic management strategies in an open forum without the pressure and stress of an actual emergency situation. That workshop facilitated a lot of communication that a lot of the first responders never had the opportunity to share before. And the first responders, a number of them also learned that completely closing a roadway wasn't necessarily a positive situation, that it caused some additional risk both to the first responders as well as to the motoring public. So after that workshop was over, it became apparent to me that we needed to bring this to Northeast Indiana. So as I contemplated how we could fund this as a regional planning organization and a metro planning organization, I realized that the TIM concepts fit into many of our transportation planning programs and could even help us satisfy some of the federal planning requirements or factors. Obviously TIM supports a safety program and also, though, works into your congestion management program. It provides system reliability, economic vitality, efficient roadway operations, in addition to the safety aspects. What used to be a secondary benefit that has come out of this whole process is that we've developed a much stronger relationship with our first responders. What used to be a casual or occasional discussion with them on safety has now turned into almost a weekly or daily dialogue where we share different safety issues and work through those to improve safety on our roadways. The team that I have that I'm fortunate to be able to present to you and introduce to you. I'll introduce each one, and then we'll just start to roll through the rest of the presentation. Our first speaker will be Karen Stipik. Karen is our Federal Highway Indiana Division ITS Operations and Freight Engineer. She's been involved with the TIM initiative for over 10 years, and she will help explain the federal highway role and why MPOs and RPOs should be involved in this process. Following Karen will be Steve Harney. Stephen is the program director for the Indiana Department of Transportation, and he works in one of INDOT's traffic management centers. He is our in-time convener, and he will discuss the statewide TIM group. Following Stephen will be Jerry Faust. Jerry is a senior transportation planner for NERC. He works on our safety and congestion management programs, and Jerry will talk about our process in Northeast Indiana and how he helps facilitate and support the traffic incident management effort. Following Jerry, we're fortunate to have Lieutenant Weimer and Lieutenant Reed. Lieutenant Weimer is a firefighter with the Fort Wayne Fire Department, and she is one of our passionate TIM trainers. And Lieutenant Reed is an officer with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and he is another one of our excellent TIM trainers dedicated to teaching the safety concepts of TIM. And the lieutenants will share their training experience and application of the traffic incident management techniques. I want to reiterate my agency's role, and essentially what Jerry does is to coordinate and facilitate, because that's what we do best. We get support through Federal Highway and through INDOT, through InTime. Sharp 2 provides all of the training materials, and it's really the lieutenants, as part of the training team, do the heavy lifting, and they're the ones that deliver the message for us. It's been a positive experience for this region, I believe, and would hope that all agencies would get involved and behind the TIM initiative. And with that, I will turn this over to Karen Stipik.
Hello, I am trying to share my PowerPoint, and I want to just go ahead and get started. Can you see the PowerPoint yet?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, didn't know if it was coming up. Anyway, I just want to really jump in from the federal highway perspective and talk about how we have learned and feel that, a regional program based on TIM in addition to a state program is very beneficial and effective. And as Dan mentioned, I'm not trying to advance the slides. There we go. Okay. Is beneficial to the MPOs or regional planning organization, and it does help you address your planning factors that are required to be considered as part of the transportation planning process. Dan mentioned those, and I don't need to reiterate those, but what I want to do is point out, the sources of congestion is what this pie chart on, well, it depends on your perspective, it's left or right, but anyway, side shows that, our congestion, 40% of it's bottlenecks, but 25% is traffic incidents. And it's those traffic incidents that are not expected that cause delay and really end up with a greater impact, I believe, to our mobility. And then also I want to talk about crashes, and this is a map of all the injury crash locations in Indiana over a few year period. And you can see there are high crash locations, but really they occur all over. They are rather random. And what can you do to address all your crashes, not just those crashes that are in a high crash location that you can build you can do a safety improvement project at? Or what can you do to address traffic incidents that are non-reoccurring, random, you don't know when they're going to occur, you don't know where they're going to occur, versus bottlenecks that are reoccurring and happen at the same location generally every day. Also, I want to talk about, secondary crashes. Once there is an incident or crash, there is a 6 times greater risk of a secondary crash, and that secondary crash is often a high-speed rear-end collision. And we see these secondary crashes in both incidents and work zones. And then again, traffic incident management is a countermeasure for reducing delay, because delay, the unexpected delay, makes you late to work, makes a freight delivery late, ends up making you late for a family's, a soccer game of your child's. So what is TIM? How does TIM actually improve safety? How does TIM improve congestion and delay? TIM is a planned and coordinated multidisciplinary process to detect, respond, and clear traffic incidents so that traffic flow may be restored as safely and quickly as possible. And I imagine most of you have heard about TIM, but I want to really kind of emphasize TIM's local, and here's an example of an incident that occurred where a tractor trailer rolled over on a ramp right before rush hour. This is a local situation. This is going to impact this region. And so what are you going to do? Well, traffic incident management promotes a coordinated response. And so you'll see the tow operators there, but there's also police and other responders there too. And because they have a well-coordinated TIM program and relationships, they decided to move this tractor trailer off to the side of the road and reopen the ramp just before rush hour and improve traffic flow and not cause congestion to spill onto the local streets. That is a good example of TIM. And then I was going to show a video, but I'm going to just not do that. But this video was going to show how quickly a secondary crash can occur once vehicles start slowing for an initial incident, and within 30 seconds, this video would have shown a rear-end collision with a semi impact, hitting the back of the queue and hitting vehicles that were already slowing or stopped. And I also want to point out that in these last two pictures I've shown interstates, but this is actually works also on other types of roadways. US 30 in Indiana is a high freight corridor, and it's multi-lanes in several sections, and TIM is an effective countermeasure there so that you don't end up with so it works on all types of roads. It's not just on interstates, because you don't want traffic spilling off even one of your major corridors. US 41 that goes from north-south from northern Indiana down to Evansville and Henderson, Kentucky. Traffic incident management really addresses saving lives for responders, for the driving public. It reduces secondary crashes. It helps with saving time, which is delay, travel time reliability, quality of life, and then it also helps with the economics in your area and the impact of the, freight and commerce and wasted fuel and lost productivity. And this is an example of how a TIM program has helped in Arizona. They've reduced the number of secondary crashes after implementing a TIM responder training program. So what they've done is they've reduced secondary crashes. So they've reduced the number of injuries and fatalities. They've reduced delay that has resulted from one incident and then a secondary incident that has occurred, and they've helped their economy. So what can an MPO or RPO do? It is not necessarily like other safety and congestion problems. There's not a construction project to build a safety improvement project or to add capacity to reduce congestion. There's other things that occur, and the number one activity is the National TIM Responder Training Program that was developed by the Federal Highway Administration. And that program was developed by responders for responders to help them learn about safe and quick clearance. And so that safe and quick clearance, when you clean up your crash scene quicker, you're reducing the likelihood of a secondary crash, and you're helping with everything else with, the impact to mobility and traffic delay. So here's some examples of what regional planners can do at an MPO or regional planning organization to implement TIM or foster TIM and facilitate traffic incident management at the regional level. And the Fort Wayne presentation that you're going to hear more of is a very good example of how a regional level program versus a state level program can be very effective. And so that's just my part of passing this along. Steve Harney from the Indiana Department of Transportation is going to talk about the Indiana Traffic Incident Management effort next. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, Steve.
Okay, good morning. My name is Steve Harney. I will not have a presentation to give. Actually, if you saw Karen's presentation, it was a really great example of any slide that I would be able to share. But I want to talk to you about how the statewide initiative really began, and how we see the work in the regional effort. When the In-Time, first of all, I've been with the INDOT for almost 18 years, literally to the day, coming here in 2004, and with the Traffic Management Center. And during that time, I was assigned to be part of the In-Time program, and I quickly found within myself that it was a program that we can enjoy teaching, that meant something to to the state, not only the people that were that we presented the class to, which Karen highlighted quite a bit of, but getting the messages out there that needed to be given by for responders and on behalf of responders that were out in the roadway. Now, our history in terms of the statewide focus was to really start the statewide initiative and get the training out there. So my history in terms of the Traffic Management Center began in a dispatcher level. Historically, I've been a 911 dispatcher, I've been a firefighter, I've been a police officer. I like to often say during my training, the only thing I haven't done is I was never a record driver, but I didn't need to be because I've crashed a couple cars. But if we looked at the people with boots on the ground and we asked them, what are some of your concerns? First of all, there was a lack of training statewide for responders to get on the same page and communicate together. One of the counties I remember very well was one of the counties we went to go do training in. They had a problem where they had volunteer firefighters who would respond to the scene of an incident. They were all over the road. There was no way to get equipment in or out. But with just a little bit of training about where to park those vehicles and how to make room for the public and how to make room for responding vehicles, may it be fire, police, towing, EMS, and following the rules of the Traffic Incident Management Program, they saw an immediate change right away in terms of how agencies responded to incidents and then the safety that they had. So, first and foremost, our goal is what? To make sure that all of our police officers and our firefighters statewide get home after the incident is over. So for years, we went with the statewide focus, bouncing all over the place, myself included, doing training everywhere. But we realized that the real focus needs to be at the local level. That's where the MPOs and the RPOs, the regional planners and the metropolitan planners really come into play. We needed champions. We still do need champions to bring it into the local level. Let's go back to what I said about the agency that had cars all over the roadway. That was a local incident. That doesn't mean that for Indiana, what works in Indianapolis always works in Fort Wayne or Gary or Louisville, or the Louisville area, Indianapolis, down near the Jeffersonville area. We realize that the flavor, the discussion, the topics that are bothering local responders needed to be talked about and reacted to on the local level. So we started to branch out and promote regional groups across the state. And we had a couple small ones. We had one in Terre Haute, which is on the west side of the state. We've had a couple small ones as time has gone on, but the Fort Wayne model, and really big kudos to Dan, Jerry, and everyone involved in the Fort Wayne model. The Fort Wayne model quickly became the really the gold standard for us in terms of what a regional model should look like. Now, over the last couple of years, we've changed our management focus from in-time state police. We went from state police being the lead agency to NDOT being the lead agency, of which I represent. But that doesn't matter because it is all that group that comes into it. So whether you're a sworn officer or a firefighter or a DOT person or what you are, we can bring you to the table. And Fort Wayne really has shown the ability to do that, to bring people to the table. And now we're seeing new groups pop up in the northeast part of the state in the Gary area, and then formation of some other groups that we're going to see hopefully in the next year or so in the southern part of the area. I was encouraged with the presentation that Andy gave because one of the things that we still need to focus on within the TIM community is the education to the public. And we've had a couple times to make some presentations in front of driver's education, but nothing near what Andy has done, and it's really encouraging. I was encouraged by Andy. First of all, my son-in-law works for Dallara Racing, which provides a lot of safety equipment to drivers. And, you know, the safety equipment, first of all, we have when we're driving is this right here in our head. So the other thing I would like to say in terms of when you're building a TIM program across the state, especially, and when you go into the regional focus of those TIM programs, remember to build out, have enough people within your bench that you don't lag. So one of the challenges we find is that people move on. They come in, they'll teach for a while. Some people retire, some people change jobs, they no longer can train. We don't have the bench that we normally would like to have people fill into some of those back positions. So make sure that you have some people on your bench that are capable of filling in. If someone moves on, that you don't have to miss a beat and you don't have to lose the enthusiasm for your statewide focus. But let your regional and metropolitan areas help build that strength and then be there to back them up. Find out best practices across the state and then introduce those to other regional areas so that they can grow as well. So the statewide focus is a great place to start, but as we know, a lot of good programs are and continue to be in the communities, and that's what our MPOs and RPOs provide. So that's my part of the traffic incident management statewide focus, and Jerry Faust will now continue. Thank you.
Good morning. I am bringing up a screen here. I'm assuming everyone can see that.
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Is that working?
There it goes. I can see
All right.
it.
All right, thanks. So my name is Jerry Faust. I've been a planner here with years. My primary role has been to work with safety and congestion management. When this program was first presented by Dan, my challenge was to figure out how to implement this regionally. The first steps for this was to identify stakeholders and establish some buy-in. So I'm going to go through just a brief overview of the history of how the Northeast Indiana TIM Committee has evolved. This is another definition of the SHARP 2 program, and I think it's key I put it in here again just to reiterate the fact that this program was a federal highway program. It was not a law enforcement initiative. But the goal was to really look at the safety of the roadways, not just for first responders, but the traveling public, that renewal, the reliability, and the capacity of our roads. We, as planners, often focus directly on reoccurring congestion at those bottleneck areas and those areas that we know are under capacity. But yet we still have non-reoccurring congestion due to various traffic incidents, whether it's medical runs or fires or traffic stops or crashes. So the challenge was, how do we initiate that? Well, here was the program. It was already built. We didn't need to create anything. It was already here. We just needed to establish a local program where we could improve some of those issues that we were having on our roadways through the training that we've been working on. In 2012, we identified the following stakeholders. It was primarily our law enforcement agencies, Homeland Security, 911 dispatch centers, which we had 3 of, towing companies, and then partnered with NDOT in the district in our area. This was very key initially to get that buy-in. I can't stress how important it is to get buy-in from those command folks at each one of these stakeholders. In spring, we held a meeting and invited everyone together and established the committee. Again, the same offices that we listed before, but we also broadened it to our coroner's office, the prosecutor office, anyone that may make a scene or be directly involved in incidents were invited to participate on our committee. In July of 2013, we had 7 responders who attended the Train the Trainer so that they could actually carry out those duties. As an MPO or an RPO, you can't do this. You need the support of local responders to really, as Dan said, drive the initiative forward, and having those is critical. So we had those 7 folks that went down initially, became a certified trainer. Now we probably have close to 30 local responders within our area that we can utilize to go out and do the training when needed. In 2013, we held our first training that was a 4-hour. The focus for that was again on the command, those high-ranking officers within the fire departments, owners of towing companies. It was critical to have those. The fact that we were able to get almost 46 people that attended it, that represented 19 agencies. And it really sold the program, and we got that buy-in that we needed, because staff and hours for training is limited for all of these folks. And it was important to get that buy-in so that they would help us send responders to these training sessions. Our role since then, from 2014 through 2019, I didn't include 20 on here because we really haven't done much in 2020 because of the pandemic. But up to that, my specific role is to hold the committee meetings. I attend many of the 4-hour trainings as a support staff. We provide the handouts and other logistics. We also complete after-action reviews, and we can help as an independent person helping to bring first responders back together after a major incident and discuss what happened. Was it good? Was it bad? What could we do better? As of last year, we've trained over 1,700 responders through our program, which is a great success. But in doing that, it's carried out the message to at least one responder from over 120 different agencies. And I believe that's been one of our successes, is having first responders in a room, hearing the message, then going back and wanting additional training for their responders or their other representatives within their personnel. And the word of mouth has just spread, where this training has somewhat sold itself. This is a summary of some of the agencies. You can see, obviously, law enforcement and fire have the most numbers of responders, so they're the largest representative. One of our big successes was the Fort Wayne Police Department included the 4-hour training within their annual in-service, which all officers in the department attended. So that was a big chunk of where we got that 719 responders from the law enforcement side. But the relationship between the planners and the responders, as Dan said, has become a very positive outcome for us. The MPO role is simply to coordinate and support, but it's also created an open dialogue where we're hearing problem areas from responders before we have to wait on data. We're not waiting for crash data or waiting for crashes to even occur. First responders are now more open to contacting me, and we can coordinate them with the local public agency responsible for that location. So there's been a lot of positives on both sides and more understanding of what everyone's doing. But again, this program, while we can help coordinate it, it's really successful because of the responders that we have that are directly involved. And they've really carried the torch for this entire initiative. So the keys to our success, anyone that's considering, and I would encourage any planning agency or district to become involved as much as possible. I think begins with just identifying those stakeholders, those key local stakeholders that are responding to incidents on your roadways, and at the top level, get that buy-in. The training and material is available nationwide. We've relied a lot on our end-time partners through the state. But once you can identify those stakeholders and get a vested responder to help carry that torch, become trained and carry out those trainings, I think you'll see a very successful program from it. And we're going to hear shortly from two of our lieutenants that are directly involved. And I think they've seen and the imagination they have now that they didn't prior to being involved. If you want any specific information, I can put this up again later. But if you're a planning agency and you have specific questions or anything that you would like to discuss with me, email me. I'd be happy to help in any way I can. And with that, I am going to turn this off and turn it over to the lieutenants.
Ready? Good morning. Can everybody hear me? All right.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I see a yes. Thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Traffic Incident Management Program, and especially how it's been spelled out in Northeast Indiana. My name is Amanda Weimer. I'm a lieutenant with the Fort Wayne Fire Department here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Beside me is Lieutenant Christopher Reed with the Fort Wayne Police Department. A little bit about Fort Wayne, Indiana specifically is we are approximately 110 square miles, approximately 250,000 citizens. We're located in Allen County, Indiana, which has Interstate 69 that runs through the entire county, as well as Interstate 469, US 30 East, US 30 West, 33, Coliseum Boulevard. A lot of those main highways, main arteries. For a frame of reference, the busiest section of Interstate 69 here in Allen County has a traffic count of approximately 82,000 vehicles in it. So that's a little bit about Fort Wayne specifically, just to give you some details. I failed to mention that Lieutenant Reed and myself are, in addition to being public safety, we are also traffic incident management trainers. We are very passionate about this program. We believe in this program and what it has to offer, and we were both compelled to step into the role of being a TIM trainer to help other responders gain the knowledge that also ultimately impacts the citizens and economics and all of those things that are a result of the Traffic Incident Management Program. I'm going to challenge you all to think about something before we go any further. I want you to think about who has the greatest direct impact on affecting traffic incidents, on managing traffic. And that's going to be your first responders. So I want you to think about anytime you've been in your personal vehicle, been on the roadways, you come upon a crash scene or an incident scene, who is affecting the traffic and the managing of that traffic directly? It is police, fire, EMS, tow, DOT. It is all those organizations. So I want you to think about that. You can have the greatest closed circuit TV, DMS, dynamic message signs. You can have all those things in place, but they are no good to you if you do not train the responders who are going to be making the impact on your roadways. As a matter of fact, here in Allen County, we are just now getting our CCTVs and more dynamic message signs, so we're pretty excited about that. But so the key point I want you to think about going forward is, who are your boots on the ground to make the impact in managing your traffic? It's going to be your first responders. I will tell you that for many years, there was a very specific mindset of managing traffic among first responders, and it's because we didn't know any better. We didn't know any different. There was no training program that existed prior to the Federal Highway Traffic Incident Management Program coming along. There was no program to actually teach responders how to manage traffic. There was nothing. Lieutenant Reed has over 32 years in public safety in multiple different avenues. I have over 25 years in public safety myself, and I can tell you that there was nothing in place to help us manage the traffic, to make the impact for responder safety, motorist safety, the economic impact. There was nothing. The Indiana Law Enforcement Academy has nothing in their curriculum to teach their new law enforcement officers how to manage traffic. The Indiana Department of Homeland Security has nothing in the firefighter curriculum on how to manage traffic with fire trucks, EMS scenes, crash scenes, nothing. EMS is also the same thing, that there is nothing in place in these curriculums to teach the new upcoming generation how to manage traffic. So let alone, where does that leave us for those already in our lines of work in public safety that are making the direct impact on managing traffic? Well, I'll tell you, for many, many years, we did the best we could, which was close the roadways. That was our answer, wasn't it? We closed the roadways, and that's just what we need to do, because we didn't know any better. We didn't know any different on what to do. And it made sense because we were keeping ourselves safer. We were preventing motorists from coming through our incident scenes, our crash scenes. So that is just what we did. We closed the roadway. That's all we knew how to do. As you've heard Dan reference and Jerry reference, the Traffic Incident Management Program was brought by our MPO to the area, and they had buy-in and support, and they wanted to support us as responders. They understood the impact that responders had on managing traffic. I took my first 4-hour class, and I got to tell you, I was absolutely shocked. I was actually almost disheartened in learning what I learned, that the decisions I was making, not through any fault of my own, it was lack of education, the decisions I was making on roadway incidents and crash scenes was actually potentially putting the same public that I was sworn to serve and protect at risk because of the secondary crashes, because of lack of managing the queue. I was actually endangering the motorists I was sworn to serve and protect. And I decided right then and there that we had to make an impact, and we had to go forth and educate our fellow emergency responders. We have trained now, as they've said, for approximately 10 years. The past 6 to 7 years here in Fort Wayne have really hit home, as you saw in Jerry's PowerPoint, that we've had over 1,700 responders trained. That is because of the MPO's impact with us as responders and vice versa. I will tell you, there was a huge benefit to bringing all these responders together, but also the reciprocal relationship we had with our MPO, or the NERC up here. I learned what planning organizations do. I had no idea what a planning organization even did, but they were willing to come forth and help us as responders be able to get the word out, educate us on how to manage incident scenes, crash scenes, those types of things. We learned all about safety measures they have in place, congestion management, reoccurring congestion, and non-reoccurring congestion. The non-reoccurring congestion is what we see day to day. Remember, the non-reoccurring congestion is not just crashes. It might be the dead deer in the roadway. It might be a law enforcement traffic stop. It might be an EMS run. Those things all contribute to that non-reoccurring congestion. So it goes back to who directly impacts your non-reoccurring congestion. It is your emergency responders. It is your boots on the ground. Once again, those are the people that impact that non-reoccurring congestion. Just for a little frame of reference here, for those of you agencies that do pull just crash data, in Fort Wayne last year in 2019, we had approximately 10,490 crashes. Once we calculated between Allen County and the city of Fort Wayne Police, Fort Wayne Fire, Allen County Sheriff's Department, there were over 250,000 estimated incidents. So when you think about it like that, if you're just pulling crash data, you're just looking at the middle of that donut. You need to think outside the box as to all the times that responders are on the roadways making an impact, affecting traffic, managing traffic. Are they trained to help be part of the solution and not part of the problem with that? So how do we affect the non-reoccurring congestion? It is with the traffic incident management program. As Jerry's pointed out in his PowerPoint that you saw, we have had a great relationship with our MPO. We're very, as a responder, I'm very appreciative of them being willing to come forward, of the NERC, of Dan Avery, of Jerry, of everybody's time and effort for them to help us as we also help them. You saw that Jerry's slide also included the Northeast Indiana Traffic Incident Management Committee. I am very grateful, humbled, and wowed that we have over 30 responders who are traffic incident management trainers from all the various disciplines. That is where your buy-in comes in. As we found out with our MPO, that it's a two-way street. Our MPO can provide us certain things, but we also bring the street cred, so to speak. We bring the street cred to the other responders by impacting them and getting them the buy-in of saying, look, we're in this line of work. We're helping to impact managing traffic. You can too. So that's why it's a two-way street. You as an MPO can be effective in providing the responders the resources they need, everything from handouts to maps to paperwork, that type of stuff. But then we as the responders go forth and start to recruit and network within our own organizations and outside the box. The TIM committee, the Northeast Indiana Regional TIM Committee, we had over 1,700 responders trained, and as you saw, I'm pretty proud of the fact that the Fort Wayne Police Department made it a mandatory in-service for every single police officer in their department to take the 4-hour training. They had that much buy-in and investment from their upper staff, and they felt it was that important they mandated it, as well as our local EMS agency. The more buy-in you can get from the upper the upper staff, so to speak. We've had several different trainings where the mayors of some of the small cities that we've been at have actually made it a point to come to the training, be with the responders, be with us, and show that they are supportive of the program. And it also shows that they're supportive of their people. They're supportive of their responders and what we're trying to do to manage traffic, to make it safer for us as responders, the motoring public, the economic impact, the environmental impact. So long story short, has this concept worked for us? Has TIM worked for us here in Northeast Indiana? And I think the answer is an absolute yes. We have seen, we continue to see improvements from rolling out all these trainings. We see results in the field. We see law enforcement officers moving vehicles out of the roadway. We see them starting to do traffic stops in parking lots. So once we're out of the roadway, we're all safer. We see increased safety vest usage. We see ambulances parking in better locations. We see lane blocking with fire apparatus. So I believe, and I believe Lieutenant Reed will say the same thing, we have seen a positive impact due to all of this education. You know, knowledge is power. It's also allowed us to network with other places that we may not have reached out to. We have gone to some very far-reaching places because they wanted this. They wanted to be educated, and we would never say no. We've gone to some far-reaching, larger cities, smaller cities, and everything in between because we are passionate, as well as the other trainers, we are passionate about getting this word out. It's also allowed us to have improved communication within the other agencies. First responders are some very dynamic, unique, headstrong personalities, as we've all found out, but this has allowed us to break down some of those barriers and actually have communications, better communications, starting to talk to one another on incident scenes. Hey, can you do this or do this? Move your vehicle here or there. So I believe we've had a positive impact as a result of all of the effort of working with our MPO with us, putting our trainers out there, and educating the first responders, your boots on the ground, those people who are making the direct impact in managing the traffic in your area. So that's all I have. Do you have anything, Lieutenant?
No, I think you hit on all the points that I was going to hit on. I do want to reiterate how important it is, though, to get buy-in from the chief. We got enough attention through some high-profile